How's it going, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about the most popular topic in kind of the fighting world, the differences between MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what I think, what's my take on it, and we're going to talk about that right now. What's up, everybody? My name is Chasen Hill. I'm a Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt. I've been teaching and training now for over 12 years. So if you like all things Jiu-Jitsu, this is a great channel for you guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, let's get into the video. Today, this is a common question I get asked by people who don't really train Jiu-Jitsu or MMA. And it's just a super common thing that I think people are searching right now with New Year's resolutions coming up. Everyone's starting to get back into some normal life. 2021's coming up. People are trying to start some new things, and they go, Chase, what should I do? Should I train Jiu-Jitsu? Should I train MMA? Should I do both? There's a lot of different things to break down in that. So first thing I want to talk about is what is the main difference between Jiu-Jitsu and MMA? MMA stands for Mixed Martial Arts. That typically is categorized as you're learning striking, grappling, multiple forms of striking. So you could be doing kickboxing, boxing, taekwondo, Muay Thai. And in grappling, it's the same thing. You could be doing multiple styles of grappling. You could be doing judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling. So MMA is truly what it stands for, Mixed Martial Arts. Right now, we look at MMA as more of a sport, and it is a very high level sport. Everyone knows what the UFC is. So a lot of people, maybe when they think that they're going to go to an academy and they're going to participate in MMA, they may think they're possibly getting into a fight. And that could be true. Each academy runs their MMA program differently. It seems like nowadays most people have like an MMA program that's just for the casual person. And then there's the MMA academy for like the professionals, or maybe they have classes that are separated. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what is that? So BJJ or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a type of grappling that's typically practiced in MMA a lot of times, but it's just the art of submission grappling. A lot of places, if you do classic jiu-jitsu, kind of like how I teach and what I train, we start from the perspective of self-defense, so not necessarily MMA, and I'll talk about the differences between those here in a second. But we talk about the basic ways of how to defend yourself. Most people, if you guys aren't aware, if you ever messed around with a high school wrestler, it was probably like the worst thing ever. If you talk trash to a high school wrestler and they end up grabbing you and throwing you on the ground, you just felt completely helpless. Okay, and that's what jiu-jitsu is. Jiu-jitsu, we learn for self-defense purposes of how to defend from strikes, kicks, punches, and how to close the distance, take the fight to the ground, and then dominate from the ground position with controls or submissions like chokes, arm locks, joint locks, whatever you want to use on your opponent. So you can view jiu-jitsu as a self-defense perspective, and you don't necessarily have to do MMA in order to do jiu-jitsu. So going back to the jiu-jitsu point, jiu-jitsu is a style of grappling that involves chokes, arm locks, joint locks, and definitely can be used for self-defense. Later on, a lot of people like to do some sportive aspects of jiu-jitsu where they go compete in tournaments, and it's just jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, so there's no strikes involved, and you're just trying to out jiu-jitsu the other person, very similar to wrestling. There's a point system, there's a scoring system, but just like in wrestling, how there are pins that end the match, same thing in jiu-jitsu. There are submissions that completely end the match. Now, let's go back to this MMA point. So MMA, like I said, they involve multiple styles of martial arts. You can do striking and grappling. A lot of times you're going to train jiu-jitsu inside of MMA, but there is definitely certain jiu-jitsu techniques that work better for MMA than not in MMA. I have to really ask my students or the new people this question of what is their purpose? MMA is a great thing to learn to kind of just get introduced into a lot of mixed martial arts, I guess. If you have a little bit of interest in learning it all, learning a little bit of striking, a little bit of grappling, of those aspects, then it's a great thing to do. Unfortunately, a lot of times what ends up happening is MMA classes, if you go to academy and they start training you MMA and they start teaching MMA, they are kind of designing someone to possibly go fight in a cage. So you're getting this good training, you're learning a little bit of the basics of everything, but you never really go much more detailed or really more in depth in anything unless you want to become like a professional fighter, in my experiences. Maybe there's some academies out there that run MMA programs that never push their fighters into that. People just do it for fitness and a workout and things of that nature. You can definitely learn self-defense in MMA, but a lot of times how MMA is structured is you're learning to compete against the other person. So it's another skilled MMA person versus another MMA person. So you guys are doing MMA versus each other, versus it being like this crazy person versus your MMA skill. There can be some differences there. I don't like to say MMA can never be used for self-defense, because it definitely can. If you know how to out-punch and out-grapple anybody, you're probably going to learn how to survive. But it all depends on the academy and how it's taught and how it's structured. So I say that very loosely. Now, jiu-jitsu. So what's the difference with jiu-jitsu? Well, jiu-jitsu, like I said, you can practice self-defense. There's a very self-defense philosophy behind jiu-jitsu. That's actually what it started as. It started as mainly a self-defense. And it started by fighting all of the other traditional martial arts. And then, typically what we ended up seeing was if you were just a pure striker and you got taken down to the ground, it was a bad day for you because you didn't know what to do. Here came jiu-jitsu as a primary version of self-defense. And you definitely doing jiu-jitsu, you can get away with doing jiu-jitsu and learning self-defense and never learning how to really punch, strike, or kick. Now, I think there's a benefit in learning how to punch, strike, and kick at a certain point. In my personal opinion, learning how to punch, strike, and kick, maybe not as a world class. Obviously, if you're a world class striker, I'm not trying to offend anybody right now. That's very difficult to do, but it's much easier for me to understand a punch, strike, or kick and practice it and do things like that. And I can get better at that much faster than I can in the jiu-jitsu realm. It takes a long time to get very good at jiu-jitsu. I mean, the average person, it takes 10 to 12 years to get your black belt in jiu-jitsu. To learn an effective strike or to throw an effective kick, it doesn't really honestly take that long. If you were to practice that hardcore for a year and only practice a straight jab and cross, you could get very good at a straight jab and cross, and that's all you do, and that's most of the time mainly what you need for self-defense. But learning how to do a double leg, learning how to do an arm lock, learning how to control the mount, learning how to control these positions from the ground, they take much more time, and it's different per the size of the opponent, right? When I'm punching somebody or kicking somebody, doesn't matter their size, my punch is the same, but learning how to control somebody who's twice my size or learning how to submit somebody who's twice my size, that takes a lot of practice and a lot more effort. Those are kind of the main little differences between MMA and jiu-jitsu and the training styles. Like I said, I personally prefer, this is going to be biased because I teach jiu-jitsu on a daily basis. I typically push people to go toward the jiu-jitsu route unless they're wanting to experience a little bit of striking and a little bit of kicking and see what it's like to, exchange strikes with one another. A lot of people, in my experience, aren't really wanting to get punched into the face unless they're wanting to be an MMA fighter. And I think that's why a lot of academies or MMA schools are set up that way. Because most of the people that really take an interest in this, in MMA, they want to go and fight. So these people take it very seriously. Now, there are some places that offer, like, I know title boxing, they offer cardio kickboxing, and there's some places that do boxing and just Muay Thai and kickboxing for more fitness aspect, and it's a great workout. I mean, it's 100% awesome workout. So if someone wants to just learn how to maybe throw a good punch, maybe throw a kick, and get a workout in, and that's all that they want to do, definitely doing MMA or kickboxing is a great resource for you. Jiu-jitsu is going to have another benefit. I think jiu-jitsu is the fastest way to become self-defense proficient because you can punch and kick somebody, but it doesn't work on everybody. If I'm fighting someone who's much, much bigger than me and I punch and kick them, even if my technique is perfect, they can withstand my punches and kicks and they hit me back, I'm probably going to be in a bad day. But if I take somebody down onto the ground and learn how to control them and really exhaust them and fatigue them and then be able to choke them and put them to sleep, I can do that to anybody, any size. Typically push people more toward the jiu-jitsu aspect to become more self-defense, if that's only what they're looking for. Now, definitely later on, it's a good idea that if you get into jiu-jitsu and you're wanting to become totally well-rounded in self-defense, you should definitely learn how to throw a punch. You should definitely learn how to throw a kick. You should even learn how to even fire some weapons and defend from guns and maybe some weapon retention and things like that. Those are all good things that you should eventually put into your arsenal of these training aspects and self-defense aspects. So really, as a quick recap, we really need to decide, what do you want? Are you wanting self-defense, or are you wanting to just go in and get a little bit of fitness and a little bit of workout? Like I said, if you're a really high-level MMA fighter, I'm not worried about you defending yourself on the street because you're gonna know what to do. But unfortunately, learning, I think, MMA as a hobby, and if someone doesn't really take it to kind of the next level beside 5 or 10 introductory classes of MMA, they're not really gonna be proficient at defending themselves. I've had students take literally 5 or 6 jiu-jitsu lessons that's taught for self-defense, and they've had to use them in real life. I've had law enforcement stories, I've had kids that deal with bully stories, and I've had actually women who've had to defend from an attacker by having no more than 5 or 6 jiu-jitsu classes. MMA, it's a little bit tricky because that's a whole skill set that you're learning to defend against. So I know this video may be a little bit controversial for some of you guys. That's okay. I love it. Bring on the controversy. I like the debate and the conversation. So make sure you comment down below on which one you guys think is better, which one you would like to do, maybe which one you practice in. Quick plug, if you guys like podcasts, check out my podcast. It's called the Chasen Live Podcast. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu, fitness, MMA talk on it, so check that out down below. And with that, I hope you guys have good training and start your new year off right. Take it easy.